the Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, is the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. If you're joining us anywhere other than twitch.tv/deepmindfulness, buddy, you're in the wrong place. Get out. At this point, we're just streaming here because we were streaming a bunch of different places for a while and trying to tell people like, hey, we're going to be just streaming here. So I'm wondering where on earth someone else would be. If you're watching this replay, well, you know where we live when we're live. So excellent, folks. Very excited to be here with you. I see we already have 5 folks on the line with us. Where is everyone coming from? Where are you? Where lives you? Where do you find yourself? Where are you right now? I've got to get my geolocator tracker going. So for that, I need some extra data. That extra data comes from you surrendering your personal information like this was a social media network. Where are you coming from? Where are you? Where do you exist? The only difference is I do not sell it to other companies, foreign governments. Oh, excellent. Okay. We have folks rolling in here. What's up, folks? How's it going? Okay. The BP Burger. San Diego, welcome. BP, you know, I think that you, this is your second time on the stream. I'm trying to remember. If it's your first time on the stream, let us know. We have a very special way. Welcome you, Jesse BKK, currently in Italy for holiday. Jesse, you are a globe-trotting son of a gun. Really getting all over there. Excellent. Gene, morning from Brooklyn. Good to see you again, Gene. Tomlin, it is Tomlin. Good to see you. Tomlin, where are you coming from? I'd be curious to hear where you are. Sporty Race Girl, Toronto. Welcome from Toronto. Glad you're here. It's so funny just because of how things worked out. Toronto has such a strong showing of people who are into serious mindfulness. Okay, who else we have here? 2020 CL, welcome back. Lovely to see you here. Hello from British Eye. It's the British Eye. Lovely to see you. I like that it's British Eye with a bunch of little hand signals. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but it's 2 or 3. What is this? It's 3 hands showing. Excellent. Yes, it's my second time here, but first time for the whole stream. Well, listen, that counts. That's enough for me. So, folks, we have the BP Burger. We have a very special way of welcoming you. This is for people and especially if it's your first time meditating, that's a different story. First time here on the stream, just let us know because we are very happy to welcome you with a whole mess of, let's see, I think somewhat similar emojis is our welcome for folks who are here on the stream for the first time, but might not be their first time meditating. Thank you so much. We got to come up with something new, something different. So for people who are first time in the stream, people who are first time meditators, we'll figure something out. So folks, excited. Today is Wednesday. It's hump day, or as it's known during coronavirus. What day is it? Yeah, we are in the middle of the old work week, and here we go. Let's see. I can just call you MP, just so you know. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for letting me know, MP. And I'm sure, as I'm assuming, that stands for military police, which you're here to keep the order, keep the people in line, which we need. The people here are very out of line, very disorderly. So, folks, excited for today, excited to meditate. Excited to be here. Also excited. This is some exciting news that has nothing to do with anyone but me. But we got our VR steering wheel to work, which means that Raquel can now learn to drive prior to actually having to get behind a 1.5 ton piece of metal in the middle of New York City, which is very, very good because she has very few opportunities to drive other than parking lots when we take a trip, because you can't be like, oh, just take it around the block. When you're traveling around the block, there's like a fish truck like jackknife halfway through and taxi cabs cutting you off. So that's not wise. So she's learning to drive with the old VR. So that's fun and exciting. That's the exciting news. The other exciting news, which I mentioned in the last stream, and maybe some folks have already heard this, there's a chance, we're still trying to work it out, that we might actually do our improv comedy rehearsals here on the channel, which I think would be really fun because it's a kind of meditation. You have to shut off all these parts of your brain and just like let it flow in a way that's very, very fun. So we might do that as like a show to see if it would work. If that sounds like it'd be fun and interesting, let me know, because then we'll be more likely to do it. Let's see. Wise. Okay, there's something in the middle here. Wise. Exclusion? No. Why is it so tiny? Why is it tiny? Why seclusion here in Washington, D.C. Excellent. Very glad to have you here in Washington. It's funny, now that we have a car, which we never did because we live in New York and you wouldn't need a car, I'm like, Washington, you're like our neighbor. We could hang out. We could drive down there and just get a burger. Or, I'm not eating beef, but whatever. We could get a mushroom burger. So it's just so funny how the world changes when you have a car. Okay. Folks, here's the exciting part. This is where we start the meditation. So if you're unfamiliar with how we do things here, I'm going to recommend that you find a way to hold your body perfectly still for the entire length of the practice. There are 2 exceptions, and I'll go over those. But other than that, you're just going to keep the body completely still. The way that we do this is by arranging the body well. If you have to hold your back up straight, this kind of thing, if you're sitting, it's never going to work because it's a lot of muscle power. You actually want to use as little muscle power as possible and sort of stack the skeleton in a way that it just sort of, it's like a coat rack rather than being like, imagine a coat rack that was cut into several pieces and you had to kind of get them to work. It would take a lot of duct tape because they're like at angles and things, and it'd be constantly sort of drifting and falling. You want a coat rack that is, perfectly stacked, because then it has no problem. How do we do that? Well, your spine cannot stack on your hips unless your hips are at a certain angle, and the angle is just slightly down. So sit at the edge of whatever you're sitting on. Boop. The hips go slightly down. This allows the lower back to curve just slightly, allows the upper back to curve just slightly, and our weird double curved back caused by our early, crawling around, going up to upright shape, that double curve can balance, and then on top of that you can balance the head, and then you're good. However, so you stay perfectly still. Don't move an inch, don't scratch anything. There it is. However, 2 exceptions. 1, you feel like it. Basically, if something's so itchy or challenging, you need to adjust. Go ahead and make that adjustment. Just do so very slowly. Maybe wait like 3 full in and out breaths, and then take the action, this scratching the itch slowly. Do it mindfully. The other exception, which is very important, is if overwhelm starts creeping in, especially today, because we're going to be talking about overwhelm in the actual practice itself. So we're going to be very light introduction, but if overwhelm starts to creep in and it feels like it's too much, it's very skillful to adjust and say, okay, I just want to move the body a little bit. I feel like I got to shake something out. Maybe open the eyes, let the eyes rest on a single point, keep practicing, or stop practicing altogether. Those are the exceptions. So find a way that you can hold the body completely still. Do not move the body 1 inch. And then if you have to, go ahead. Just follow those guidelines that I mentioned here. Okay, what am I looking? I'm looking for beep up Twitch. I want to be on the stream itself. Okay, here we go. So finding that nice comfortable position. And we will be meditating for 25 whole minutes, and I believe that you will survive. If you've never meditated for 25 minutes, I think you're going to make it. It'll be much shorter than you think. Okay, so once you find that nice position, we will begin. If you have a container of hot water that you got from the bathroom, which is the only place in your house that produces hot water, in less than 5 minutes, then have a few sips of that. And when you're ready, we will begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths, just feeling the body rise and fall. And by simply feeling the body rising and falling with the experience of the breath, the shoulders lifting, the chest and upper back rising just slightly, the lift of the torso, neck and head, all these subtle rising and falling sensations. By attending to these, we notice something. There is a percentage of the mind that can easily watch these sensations and a percentage that cannot. This is very valuable information. It's not a problem. It simply helps us assess what kind of mind we're arriving to this particular practice with today. And using our intuition, how might we hold attention? How might we hold our awareness to be able to stay with these sensations in an ongoing way? And physically relaxing the body. Relaxing the body more than we can even physically feel, down at the level of the fascia, the connective tissue between the bone and the muscle itself. The body is often doing all of this subtle work as though it needs to prepare to jump into action. This is one of the pleasant features of doing a meditation practice. There's no real need for us to fill most of the roles of our life, not in this moment. And getting an overall sense of the body. Not any particular sensation, but the general capture of body in this moment. At any moment, the mind may be drawn to some particular body sensation. That's fine. We simply feel that sensation within the context of all of the other body sensations. Again, assessing what way might I hold the mind that would allow me continuous contact with these sensations, with this overall experience of the body. as though we were focusing a large lens, not one meant to zoom in, but one meant to gather the overall experience. Knowing that distraction will arise. It's not our enemy. It's not something we need to fight. We just keep coming back to attending to focusing this overall lens. And as we develop even the beginnings of continuous contact with our experience of the overall body, knowing that the turbulence, that which makes continuous contact challenging, this is not a problem. This is simply nature, and sometimes even including that turbulence. Sometimes this can be a way to allow the experience to calm, to cool. And the body has a great deal of wisdom. Billions of years of development have brought the body to a place where it works very hard to protect us. And so we're going to begin to look for the part of our experience. It may be located in a specific place, but might simply be an overall experience. That is concerned with surviving. And this is often characterized by fear. It can be a very subtle experience, or at times it can be more intense. But there may be part of us that's ready to jump subtle sensation in the body that is preparing to react. If we don't notice anything like this, even something subtle, even a very light hue of an instinct to reach out or grab or alter our current experience, a part of us that wants this to be different in some subtle way. Even if we don't notice this, that's fine, just soaking into the peace, the experience of safety. And if we do notice this, it's also not a problem. We can ask this question: how does our awareness feel about this experience? If we take on the experience ourselves, it could feel as though I am afraid. I am anxious. But how does the body-mind experience this? How does this overall aware experience of the body take in this subtle experience? And to help this distinction between a sense of self experiencing this and the awareness which observes, we might use a mental audio phrase, finding words that might soothe this experience. Perhaps something like, I hear you, or I see you, I understand. Picking a short phrase that can speak from the perspective of this kind awareness. That can make contact with this subtle, primordial concern. I understand. I understand. I understand. Picking a tone of voice and a speed which best serves this soothing function. And in this way, over time, we begin to learn to abide in this kind awareness. And begin to see this primordial concern as not a problem, as simply something in nature. Something that's occupying the space where we might feel safe. And choosing our phrase based on whether it actually works, whether it serves to comfort and soothe this aspect of our experience. And as we come in contact with this experience, overwhelm may begin to arise. And if we find that this process does not metabolize, the overwhelm does not stop the feedback loop, we're welcome and encouraged to do whatever is required to soothe the system. Perhaps once again physically relaxing. Perhaps adjusting the phrase, or even picking a different meditation technique. Perhaps opening the eyes, allowing them to rest on a single point. Whatever adjustments are necessary to allow the system to be soothed, even if it means pausing the meditation itself. Noticing as we do this if there's some subtle part that's a bit in the shadows. Often there can be a little bit of concern or worry that slipped past us. Being sure to include this bringing the unconscious concern in the body to consciousness, ignoring any of the narrative the mind might produce. Knowing that often this part, this activity that fills the part of us that yearns for safety, simply wants to be heard. Often it needs a little more. Often it comes with a message that it's concerned about something significant when really it just wants to be heard. It can be a bit like the boy who cried wolf, except it was due to some deep inner concern, even though there was nothing there. How can this kind awareness soothe that experience? And staying with the practice, staying in stillness, we're going to continue the process of soothing this part of us by beginning very slowly to show that part the visual world. First with a tiny bit of light entering the eyelids, eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point. Often this nervous or concerned part of ourself feels like it's in the dark. It can't see the relative safety of our experience. And so with the eyes open, showing this part, continuing the practice, but allowing the eyes to move, to look around the space that we're within. Not for our benefit, but for this part's benefit. Showing it the stability of the world. The non-dangerous experience of an ordinary environment. And in this way, holding this concerned part of us, this part concerned with survival and safety, holding this in awareness, showing it the peace, the calm of a tranquil, kind awareness. In this way, letting this particular moment be the great teacher that shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. So making any adjustments, you need to allow the body to be comfortable. If you want to stretch, do feel free. If you want to rearrange the limbs, and now comes the fun part. This is the part where we share our very unique personal experience with the other folks here. There are a couple ways to do that. One is simply to tippy type in the old chitty chat to let us know what on earth that experience was like. It is a fundamentally funny thing about meditation. You know, I think the thing about meditation that's interesting is, from one perspective, it's the most subjective thing possible. It is my experience. It's experience from this single point perspective. But what we're actually learning is that we can begin to use the tools of our objective observation. What exactly happened? What happened? We know the power of objective observation through the lovely, impact of science in our lives, which is more present than we could ever calculate. So what happened? What was that experience like? Simply writing down your experience is helpful, not only for yourself, for the mind to metabolize what occurred, but it's helpful for other people to hear the experiences, any challenges that arose, anything interesting that was discovered, this kind of thing. Tomalin, thank you so much. Just mentioned we have a Discord, and so this is a place where you can give meditation reports when we're not on stream, talk to people, talk about your experience, ask questions, this kind of thing. And beep up is the other way that you can do that. If you want to save the time of writing, you can jump on our Zoom. So I just put a link there if you want to. Just let me know if you want to jump in, because we don't launch it unless somebody says, I want to jump in to the Zoom. So you can join us here on the stream, ask your question, and beep up. And then that is sometimes a little easier because you can just use the old talk box, the old fly trap, the old pie hole. You know what I'm talking about. This guy knows what I'm talking about. This guy knows what I'm talking about. So, what was that like? What happened? What do you like now? And yeah, that was fun for me. I enjoyed it. It's been a little while since we've actually done, and the way I would shape that is, introduction to multiple self. This is, I think I talk a little bit about this thing that I liked, the meditation, the very short meditation that was in the Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I liked the way it showed these contrasts, the first one of which was about, it was about a particular chakra, which I'm not a big chakra person. I don't know a ton about it. It's not my background. And also I've always been a little skeptical of just sort of the idea, but I'm, not saying, not taking any position. That there was that part that is concerned basically with survival, and that is blocked. In this case, they talk about it being blocked by fear. So to look for our primordial fear of survival experience and unblock that. They don't go into what unblock means, but so the general premise here is just we're looking for the part of our experience that feels that it is, the place. The way I framed it was the place where we have reserved for an experience of safety, and that experience is filled with a little bit of concern, like maybe it's not safe. So using that kind of contrasting parts, there's the part that feels safe, which is helpful to prime the system to realize, oh, there is a part of me that would experience peace if there were peace to experience. It helps the system recognize that versus getting so filled and be like, there's anxiety, etc. So it's a nice framing that helps that sort of contrast. So noticing that, okay, there's this place where peace is possible, and it seems to be filled at times with this concern. Maybe it's not safe. So it's a way of framing our emotional experience in that way. Yeah. So, and also if people don't want to report, that's fine. No pressure. Let's see here. We have a message here from our friend MP, keeping the people safe. Okay, MP says, it was certainly interesting. I've never tried to make the distinction during a meditation from observer and the monkey brain, or whatever term we use. Yeah, that's the... It's very helpful to actually recognize that all of these different things that are happening are, in a way, distinct processes, right? The brain can be like, blah, 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 blah. And we can say, oh, how do I feel about that? And just notice, okay, the mind is talking right there. There it is, it's talking. And maybe the experience is feeling annoyed, or maybe the experience is feeling, neutral to it. But whatever that experience is, we can then go from there and say, how does this body-mind feel about that, etc. And eventually we get to this place, which we didn't go into language-wise or terms or anything, but we're basically talking about this kind awareness. It's the part of the mind that simply knows experiences. I can get into that. If it's helpful for me to do a demonstration of what awareness is, I can do that. But if that's not necessary, don't worry, but just let me know. And so tuning into that kind of awareness and then letting that be the place that we sort of occupy and reside. This is a skillful self to develop, because we have all of these selves: the self that's afraid of the world, a self that's, a self that feels like everything's not going to be okay, or a self that is concerned about what everyone thinks, or these different potential selves. And so beginning to occupy this kind awareness as a self, as me, that starts to train the system that the thing to rely on is this gentle, continuous, calm experience, which can be very relieving. You can imagine why that might be the case. Let's see. MP says, in my personal spirits with ATHDIT, is really hard to see that distinction throughout the day, but in meditation it definitely becomes clearer. So I don't know that acronym. I don't know that. Well, tell me what that acronym means. If somebody else knows, let me know as well. Let's see. Beep, up, up, up. Autocorrect. Okay. ADHD. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's some other thing. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so part of what meditation is a kind of simple palette where we can explore this material. So it's not a we don't want to treat it like this separate universe. Like if I do this thing, then I'll charge the battery and then I'll just drain it throughout the day. It's just our ordinary experience. This is just what we experience all the time, except we're taking away some of the usual distractions. So over time, we can train the system to do this continuously. And that's really, for me, is one of the big goals of teaching meditation, is to teach people how to bring this into every aspect of their life. And that moment at the end, when we're transitioning and showing the system like the calmness of seeing, in order to soothe it, if we do that enough times, then the system will just start to do that automatically. It'll be showing us continuously the safety of our current experience, and showing that part of us. So as it becomes clearer, as the mind gets better and better at doing this experience, as the whole system becomes more comfortable with it, it's like anything. It's like like riding a bike or any skill that we get used to. The system at some point is like, yeah, I know how to do this. So yeah, it's repetition, and there it is. Lovely. So if there are any other reports or questions or difficulties, now's the time. P.S. If you are new here, make sure to hit the follow button, because if you do, we give you 100 gold bullion coins. Krugerrand. You get 100 Krugerrand. That's not true, but you get the not only do you get the joy of clicking a button, which, let's be honest, it's a good time. You also get to know when we go live. You get to be part of the community. Let's see here. Mindfulness explained in one simple paragraph. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that was helpful. Okay, so Jess says, today's session seemed easier for me to follow compared to the last week's. And again, it could be a number of factors. Last week's could have just been terribly taught. That could have just been my fault, is one part. And then the other part is that it could just be you slept better, or any number of things. And so we want to just know that whatever kind of mind that we arrive to a meditation with, we just go with it. Okay, this is the shape of things. We're just going to go with that. That's the general breakdown. And then know how to adjust accordingly. Opening my eyes at the end to take that part out of the darkness was really helpful. That's lovely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what we're doing here is when we're talking about a multiple self model, these various selves, these various parts of us, they have their own view of the world, and they do not know all of the things that we know. They do not have the experiences. Like that part of us that's like concerned and is very often like reactive, like waiting to jump and react to like whatever experience, doesn't know about our trip to France, or doesn't know about our, the lovely time we had at the beach. It can't see that. And so part of the process is to teach it about the world. Actually, often those parts don't know about what we've experienced in meditation. So letting that kind awareness be the buffer, be the sort of part that can navigate these things is very helpful, because the kind awareness, it doesn't care about distinction. It just is kind and aware of everything. And that part has a very thin sliver view of the world. And so partially what we're doing is teaching it all of the wisdom, all of the, all of that which is contained in that kind awareness. And it begins to soothe itself. And it ends up, this is the general theory of the multiple self model, which runs parallel to internal family systems, is that that kind awareness actually has everything within it that self, that part has been searching for all this time. Like, I need. And it begins to recognize, okay, it actually, the thing I've been looking for is actually here. And so that's part of the process of teaching it that. So that's lovely. Sporty Race Girl says, I'm curious about the sporty raciness of your existence. I'm wondering what race, what kind of sport? Is it just general sportiness? I want to know more. Okay. It is helpful to meditate in the middle of the workday. Excellent. When things go sideways. I find this to be true. Just prior to the meditation, I received a phone call that made me angry. Not surprising. That's one of the features of phone calls. Despite trying to follow your instructions, my mind was rehashing the phone call and my failing to respond better. This is great because this is what I was describing before. We're just experiencing sense data all the time. We're experiencing it in 100 different forms, and to be able to metabolize that live is very, very powerful. So just even noticing it, it can seem like it's a distraction. I can't do anything about it at first. But that's the first phase of learning to metabolize something, is noticing that it's occurring. If we were just unconscious and we returned and we're like, I don't know where I was somewhere. Oh, we realized, I was actually worrying that whole time, for instance. Just noticing that the mind is distracted in that way is actually very, very good. How I could have done it better. At some point, It was like I could not understand what you were saying, but I kept pulling myself back to the meditation. Eventually, I was concentrating more than rehashing. Lovely. That's a win. Doesn't always happen, but that's great. I really liked zooming out and offering kind words. Excellent. Yeah, and especially I really like that we get to pick whatever phrase works, and we have immediate feedback. We're like, hey, today you heard me. I actually cycled through 3 phrases, and the last one worked. I could feel it. I was like, that works. One was I hear you, one was I see you, and then I said, I understand. I think that's what I said. I think it was like, I understand. And that suddenly felt like, that part could actually relax. So we have immediate feedback as to whether the phrase works in this way. So excellent. Glad to hear that. Annie, great to see you. So glad that you're here. Annie says, I got my period this morning, so my mind and body were tired and flighty. Totally understand. I hear you. No, I don't have that experience, but I know that is definitely not uncommon. We don't talk enough about how women's systems are affected by this humongous physical thing. I agree. Every month. Let's do a whole live stream about it. Let's do it. I think I'm going to try to get some support on that, because I think that it would be a little silly to have me sort of just come at from a purely theoretical view. So I'll see if Raquel is open. But that's a really good idea, actually. Thank you so much for that. And what I can say from a general point of view, this is being very aware, I do not know the experience myself. I was teaching a class once, and I had to be very emphatic. I was speaking to someone who was pregnant and had nausea, and I was like, I can't, of course I can't speak to this experience, and you might be experiencing this at a level that I can't understand. I can talk about nausea, but just know that I'm not trying to explain this as though it were my experience. But I can talk in a general sense, starting to know what those experiences are. Okay, it's like this happens, and this tends to be the case, and the system goes like this, knowing what adjustments tend to occur. All of that is a lot of, in anything, whether it's, sleepiness or when we eat a certain kind of food, or if we, whatever kind of things affect the body. When I exercise, it's like this. When I get a phone call that makes me angry before the meditation, just getting a sense of, okay, when this happens, it's like this. It won't always be like that, and it's very valuable information to begin to navigate this material. And I think it's worth, Shinzen has done, this would be a very good question, actually. Shinzen has done a number of really specific breakdowns of what it is like, how to break down sleepiness in a very fundamental way. And it would be actually really interesting to pull together senior female teachers to go through and say, okay, let's break down that experience, because of course it's very different in different people. So that'd be very interesting. I think that's a really good idea. Jean says, nothing major to report. Well, there's the minor stuff is important too. But I love the pursuit of incorporating this awareness into everyday life. Excellent. Very glad to hear that. MP Burger says, at first the I understand the part confused me. But as I explored it more, it became more comforting. Okay. I understand. I feel like I'm missing the grammar here to make this make sense. But I believe that you're saying the part that is asking how does the system take this in is confusing, and then actually doing it was a little less confusing. So excellent. Lovely. Very glad to hear that. Okay, folks. So we are reaching the end of our time here together, which is always a shame. However, the good news is, this is a good news, bad news situation. The bad news is the fun has to pause for now. The good news is it's only a pause, because we're going to be back here in fewer than 48 hours. Back here to party again and take your requests, what you want to do. It's Freestyle Friday, so we're big on requests for Freestyle Friday. And so big question for you is, what do you want to do? Oh, Annie says, that would be so helpful, getting the female teachers together to break down the experience. Yeah, let's see if we can do that. That would be great. I think it would be a great service. Let's see. And yeah, lovely. So I have one more thing before you go, before you hit the eject button. I have one more thing for you, which is a simple wish, which is that in this particular moment, you can observe that aspect of your awareness, which is relatively neutral. I like seeing for this purpose because seeing is extremely neutral. Our response to it can be not neutral, but seeing is very, very, very neutral. In Buddhist terms, they talk about Vedana, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and the monks were smart enough to know that the only place that you can detect pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral consistently is in the body, which was helpful for me to know that seeing actually does not have this experience. It's just neutral. Seeing is a very, very, very neutral experience. It doesn't want anything from me. So just looking around our environment and noticing the experience of that neutrality and letting that soak into that particular part of us that is a little concerned. What am I going to do? What's the thing? What's happening? And then comes the wish. So my wish for you is that you're able to connect with that experience, to allow the calmness of your own experience, whether it comes from seeing or just your own innate experiencing and wisdom, to show that part of us that needs safety, that needs security in this particular moment and each moment throughout your day, that you may have a little bit easier time contacting and making that relationship, because it's a relationship we're building here. Like any relationship, it takes listening and time and just moments stacked against each other over and over, another moment and another moment, and thus builds a relationship. So my wish here is that you're able to cultivate this kind, loving relationship with various experiences of yourself, thereby allowing you to cultivate and carry those forward to the relationships of all other beings. So make sure, everybody, practice well, take care of yourself, have fun, and we'll see you very, very soon.